Hi, and today I've got a little bit of a change of plan with the demonstration I was going to do, mainly because I was given these on Friday by a friend as a gift, and to be honest with you, I would never have contemplated buying them myself because I've seen them in the shops, seen the price of them and thought, well, they can't possibly be that good when they're at such a low price. But as I was giving them as a gift, I thought I should perhaps give them a try and see how they go. So I don't know how you pronounce this, Koh-i-Noor, I presume. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. And they come in this box. Now there are 24 colours in this. It tells you very little about them on the box, just brilliant watercolours, water soluble, rich colour shades, healthy friendly, whatever that means, and mixable colours. So it tells you very little about them on the side of the box, but I had a look about, read about them, and apparently you can use them on fabric as well, and they're a dye based paint. Okay, so they come with this in this little stack, and you can take the top one off and the top one becomes your palette. So that it'd be very handy for if you're travelling or something, or even just going to art group or something like that. You can just, very transportable, and use that as your palette. You could actually use that centrepiece as a palette as well there. So I'll give them a go. I had a little play with them yesterday when I got them, but I've not really had much of a go with them, and I haven't tried all the colours. The one thing I don't like about them is they've no names for the colours, so we've no idea what colour's what. Like I say, I was put off from, I wouldn't have bought them myself, because when I saw them in the shop and saw these little pans in this black plastic, they just reminded me of the type of things we used to have as children, with the very chalky watercolours that you got very little colour out of. But these are supposed to be quite intense, so as you can see, they're a nice range of colours. And this one here seemed to be a little bit pearlescent, because we seem to have the white on the top one with the yellows there, but this one looks like a silvery one. So it's just going to be a case of having a go and seeing what they do, really. So there's a little bit of an experiment because I've not used them before. So I'll just put them all to the side there. So what I've done on here is, this is just a piece of practice paper. Drawn a little imaginary delphinium, something like that, whatever it is, just in an ink pen. I use the, just see what number that one is, number 8 pilot drawing pen. So it's obviously not water soluble, so it's going to stay there once I start putting some water onto it. Okay, right, so I'll just start. I don't think I'm going to do anything to the background today. I'm just going to have a play with these colours, see what they can do. So I want a bright blue, and I perhaps should, well, I'll just test the colours down the side of the paper. I was looking for something to test them on, but I think rather than just put them straight on. Okay, so that's very, very bright, probably too bright for what I want. Try this one. And that one's a bit more purpley. So I'll have a go with these blues, putting them in and see what I think. I'm just wondering whether to mix a little colour up or whether to put it on straight from the pan. I think I will just pop a bit of water in this little tiny palette and start with this one here. Like I say, it's a bit irritating that they've got no names. Perhaps the good thing to do would be to make a little chart up yourself of each colour so that you can see what they look like. And it's just a bit painting by numbers, really, just popping this colour into these, what I've already drawn. As you can see, I've drawn it quite loosely, I've not drawn it, so it's a nice intense colour. Perhaps just try and leave a little bit of white paper on some of these flowers. In fact, while those are still wet, as well as getting some of the, leaving some of the lights, I'll also perhaps put a little bit of this darker blue, more of a purple really, pop that in and see it just to give a bit of shadow as well in places. Oh, it's just it's moving very fast actually, so it's perhaps moving a little too quick for what I was wanting to do, but that's interesting. It's, although I've not used much water at all, and it's not a very heavy paper, it's moving very quickly on that paper. So yeah, quite pretty actually that, so I'll carry on with that. Might speed this video up so you don't have to painstakingly watch me doing all of it. And then I might just get another piece of paper and try out some of these other colours, see what we think about the rest of the colours. Okay, now you can see that it's actually, we've got some nice variety of tones as it's drying there, where I've perhaps put the paint on a little bit more thickly. You've got a bit of light and shade going on as it is. I think what I'm going to do, I quite like the colours of some of these down and the lightness of some of these. To give a bit of contrast, I think we'll perhaps imagine that the light's coming from this side and pop a bit of dark in one or two places, just on a couple of the flowers, but not on all of them. And even these top ones that have had a little bit of time to dry, they're actually starting to move quite a bit, you know. It's nice, very nice. Like I say, I can't quite believe the brightness of these for the price that they are. As I said, these were a gift, but I did have a look online, and on Amazon they sort of ranged for the 24 colours, ranged in price between sort of £6 and £8, something like that. So for well less than £10, with the postage and everything, you've got 24 colours which seem to be very nice, bright colours to play with, and like I said, very transportable in that little set. So now we'll perhaps need a green for some of these leaves. Whether to make my own green or whether to use one of these, I'm not sure. We'll try that. That one looks like a bit like a sap green, but it's actually, when I'm putting it on there, it's looking a lot brighter than a sap. They lift quite quick, quite easily. They're not too difficult to lift. So if I'm looking at that, I'm thinking actually that's perhaps a bit bright. So what I do if I'm using a green straight from the palette that I think's a bit bright, to tone it down, I just pop a little bit of red in it. I'm not sure which one to go for, but obviously it's on the opposite side of the colour wheel. And that will just, a tiny bit of red in there will just tone it down and make it a little bit more natural looking. And that's actually made quite a nice green. Like I don't know what they're called, but that little sappy coloured one and the red there. There's just some bits of imaginary foliage at the bottom there. It needs some darker colour in there, perhaps a darker green. So again, what we can do is lift that one, and to make it darker, I'll perhaps put a little bit of blue in there, a nice dark blue, and then drop that in on the underside of the leaf. So it's not a massively accurate drawing, it's just to try these little paints out and see what they can do. And they're moving quite, they're blending quite nicely, moving quite quickly across the paper. So yeah, I think for the purposes of this little delphinium, they're quite a handy little set. I just wonder if that will, if they're easy to manoeuvre once they're on the paper. Yeah, they seems okay. Soften the edges and we'll move a little bit. Not the same as watercolours. It seems to have already sunk into the paper. Like I said, they're dyes. Can you see here how the green, although it is bleeding out when you put the water into it, you've still got that line underneath where you initially put it on. It's not moving as much as perhaps a traditional watercolour would when you were wanting to soften it. That might depend on the volume of water you put on, obviously, and how heavy you are with your brush. Okay, so I think we'll leave that delphinium, but I'm going to just now get a piece of paper and try out some of these other colours. Okay, so I've taped this paper down and I'm just going to go through these colours. I'll start with these lovely reds. What I'm going to do this time is wet the paper first. With the delphinium before, I just painted straight onto dry paper. I'm going to see how they react with a wet paper and try one or two different colours and see what colours come in this little set. Now this is a 24. You can actually buy a 36 as well, so that might be worth trying, because like I said, they're so inexpensive. They can be used on fabric as well, although I've not tried that apparently. So this one looks like it's some kind of a bluey colour. That's a nice, I would say, a nice turquoisey, and that's, can you see how quickly that's moving out and making those nice shapes? A bit like the brush-o, the way it moves out into the water. So we'll go for this red one. We'll do all of these colours on this one piece of paper. Just fill the paper up with these colours, see what they do. That's a nice colour. It's like an orangey rusty red maybe. And the next one, and these look very similar, but they're probably going to look different on the paper. Yeah, that's more of a red than less orange, more red. And a purpley one. I suppose you could always make your own names up for them and make a little chart with them, and well, that's rather nice, isn't it? A pinky purple. Just put a bit more water on there. And see how these are still moving down into that next lot of water. They're very, very pretty, aren't they? So this next colour, again, it looks like a red, so we've got plenty of reds going on. That looks a bit like the alizarin, doesn't it, actually? Quite a pinky red. This one looks very purpley. Whoa, wow. You're going to have to be careful with that one. That's moving really quickly into the other colours. But isn't that nice? So we've done all these ones, haven't we? We started with a blue. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, we've got 6 there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh yeah, there's 2 there, 2 different colours. So there's 6 colours in each thing. So that's the red one. We'll move on to these next greens and blues here. Start with this blue. Now then, that looks very similar to that one, doesn't it? So whether we've got two the same, or I'm not sure what's happening there. Again, that one's looks different on the palette, but when they're together they're both pretty turquoisey. Very intense, that one. And this next one looks a little bit purpley, but it isn't. It's more of a bright blue, more of a cobalty colour. So perhaps what I should do is let this, once it's dry, write on the top which is which. Try and remember which order I put them on. Bit more water. So onto the greens. This looks like a nice olivey green. It's quite. That's very yellow. A very yellow green. Nice and sunny, but very yellow. Can you see how that's not moving very much compared to when we put the purple on and it's shot out? This one's just sat where it is. So obviously all these colours are going to react quite differently. This looks quite sagey. Again, just subtly different to the last one. Nice, quite a nice colour, that one. And this last one. Again, quite a bright green, but not as yellow as the other two. So that's that little set of 3 blues and 3 greens in that one. And then the next one, this looks like a brown. We'll start with this next to this green. That's the most insipid. Every one I've put on till now has been quite bright, but that feels quite insipid, that one. So we'll go to the orange. Oh, that's nice. Nice bright orange. Let that blend into that blue, see what happens there. Yeah, that's lovely, that. I'm just going to put a bit on top of this blue. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, and I'll just get a bit more water coming down. Hope we're not going to run out of paper for putting all these colours on. Now we've got a white, so there's perhaps not much point seeing what that does because it's not going to show. We'll perhaps put it on top of. Not sure how much use that white is really. Perhaps it will cover over when they're dry. We'll have to see about that. A yellow again. It's a bit. Doesn't seem to be as much pigment in that as there does in the blues. That's a bit like this one was here. An orange. Again, that's a bit wishy-washy. And I'm not sure what colour we'll call this one. Just an ordinary bit of a cadmium yellow, I would say. These, apart from that orange one, doesn't seem to be as much pigment coming out of them or as much colour coming out of them as there was with these ones here. A little bit more disappointed with that set there. We'll move on to these dark ones. Wet the whole rest of the paper. Okay, so grey or silvery grey hardly shows up at all. Maybe it would if you put it on top of something else. Black. It's fine. I don't use black myself though, having said that, it's not something I use. What's this? Is like another greeny colour. What do you call it really, that one? Again, not that bright. Another brown. Not dissimilar to the last brown that we had. And is this a dark brown? It's bad to tell. Yep. And this last one, I don't know if the camera can pick that up, but it's very shiny. It's got a shimmer in it somehow. And you can see that on the paper, it's shining. Okay, so we left those to dry for a little while. Some of them have dried better than others. These colours here, particularly these blues, pinks, purples, have stayed nice and bright. The yellows have dried okay actually. They've not done like the watercolours do and dried less so, because if you remember when I was putting them on, I thought they were a bit wishy-washy looking and they weren't very bright, but that's quite a bright yellow. These are quite nice. Not too keen on this colour here, it's a bit dull. And I don't like the black at all. Like I said, I don't use black anyway, so it wouldn't be a problem to me. But if you'd use that and it dried like that, you'd be a bit disappointed with it, that black. The ones in the Delphinium have dried fine. Like I say, the blues are quite nice, aren't they? So, what I'm going to try and do now is perhaps try some colours on top. I was just talking about that iridescent one. And the only way to really for it to show it will be to put it onto something dark, so we'll try it on top of, I don't know if you can see that, but it's, and actually can you see how that's lifted the blue when I put my brush straight back on from there, the blue has lifted off. But yeah, you could use that to put the iridescence over the top, and it is giving it a little bit of a shine, although the camera might not just be picking it up. Try it down here. That's actually quite a nice shimmery silver. And there was another one that was a bit shiny, wasn't there? Was it that grey one that we didn't really get to see because it wasn't covering? That's a bit of a strange colour, that one. It doesn't really show up at all much. I'm not quite sure what you would use that for. Okay, so we'll see how we go overlaying them now that they're dry. Popping the green on top of the yellow. And we could try one of the blues on top. Yeah, so they shine through quite nicely, don't they? The colours from below. And it's not lifting too much. It is obviously lifting a little bit. Let's just see if we can actually lift it out as we would with watercolour. And they do call them watercolours, but they're not. They're a dye. They're not, you know, you can't compare them to your traditional watercolours. So some has come off onto the tissue there, but I don't think with the best will in the world you're going to get that paper back to white. Try it on that much deeper purple there. It will lift off, but it's dyed the paper. You're not going to get that paper back to white like you could with a good watercolour. Okay, so all in all, to sum up really, I think for the price, they're excellent. You know, to pay less than £10 for all those colours that you could use to travel with, or, you know, to have a handy little sketch set. I wouldn't use them in my work necessarily in the studio, because I've got my artist's watercolours here and that's what I'll stick to using. But you know, you can see how you can get some really nice strong colours. And if you were into fabrics and you wanted to try them on fabrics, then, you know, give them a go with that as well. So you can get a 36, you can get a 24. The other good thing that these would be good for would be actually to give them to a child. I mentioned earlier that these reminded me of those chalky things we got as children that we didn't get any colour out of, and that can really put children off. You know, children like colour and they like immediacy and they like to see results. So if you gave children these colours, it would keep them interested in art, I think, for longer than if you give them, you know, those ones that we used to have. So I can see how that would be a nice little gift for a child. But for myself, I think it would be limited how much I would use them. But yeah, for sketching and for travelling, I think they would be fine. And they mix quite nicely. You can mix some nice colours from them. Okay, so I think that's about it on those, but interesting. Yeah, okay. So any questions again, just ask me at the bottom. I think I've covered everything on those. And thanks again for watching. Bye.